We start our tour in Athens, where two of our guests check their maps before venturing out into the streets, where we get ourselves ready and load our veteran into the bus to start the tour. The stadium built for the 1896 Olympics is no longer used for events. It is now a monument to the Games. The guards outside the Greek Parliament are especially chosen for their height and skill at drill. We visit the office of the mayor and meet Mr. Hadofu, a former mayor who served with the Greek army in World War II.
The Greek brigade, which fought in Maine and Italy, together with the Australians and mostly with New Zealanders, mostly because we were under the commando of General Freiberg, who was New Zealand.
Mr. Hadofu told us his story, then sat down and signed a copy of his book for each member to take away. We then rejoined our bus and headed toward the Valerian Cemetery.
There's also the Valerian Crematorium Memorial for the 74 men of the Indian Army that are here, and the whole site commemorates approximately 3,000 of the Commonwealth forces during the 1941 to 1944 and 45 when they actually came back a second time, and the Dodkanese Islands in 1943 to 45, and Yugoslavia in 1943 to 45. And those ones have no known graves, the ones that were killed out of there, those 5 pieces. Now, if you'd like to just wander over, if anyone hasn't yet got a name of somebody that might be buried, okay, just inside there, there's a pot, and you put them there, you put that name. Tom has a friend of his, has a relative that was actually died and buried at sea after Crete. Now, there's 2 chances. They're either on the wall here, or they're on the wall at Suda Bay in Crete, so we'll check here first.
We found that name, and Tom read the prayer at our small service.
In this land of Australia, as we work for peace among nations, bless every effort being made to bring peace and understanding to the world. Give us wisdom, courage and strength, that we may help to forget and maintain a true lasting peace, and that the people and nations of the world may come and dwell together with humanity and without fear. Help us to be role models for the peace in everything that we do.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Just explaining that those two there, that person, Major Downey, is actually buried there.
Yes.
Okay? There's a soldier buried here, but because they weren't 100% sure, they have to be 100% sure who it is. They say they knew he was an Australian because of his badges and rank and all these lapel badges, and they know that's an Australian. And that's why, because they know he's an Australian, they've got that.
Yes.
If he wasn't, if they didn't know if he was Australian or British, there'd be nothing there. And only the writing on saying soldier of the war known only to God.
After luncheon on our first day, we climb to the Acropolis and visit the Parthenon.
All sides of the Acropolis are very steep, it's almost vertical, so it's the easiest slope to climb up. So that is where the entrance to the fortification is. There's only one entrance, one doorway.
This is the Odeon. It was used for musical performances in ancient times.
Of the word changed to what we understand with the word museum. But from the 2nd century after Christ, the hill was named Philopapos Hill. Philopapos was a king from Syria that left his kingdom when the Romans conquered, invaded the area of Syria, and he took refuge into Athens. He was in exile here.
The Temple of Zeus. Conservation continues.
So you can see the ruins of the city underneath. So they have combined both, and everybody's happy. But after that, the Museum of London said that the sculpture of the Parthenon is an heritage of the world.
The Parthenon marbles in the British Museum. From our perch atop the Acropolis, we see the Roman amphitheatre and the new Parthenon Museum. We now retrace the journey of our veteran Reg Trump, which ends at the beach at Kalamata. Reg was driving from Athens to Larissa via Bralos Pass, delivering ammunition. As the withdrawal progressed, Reg was sent to Corinth to deliver anti-aircraft ammunition.
Have been planned, and when you got here they told you to move on to Argos. Yeah, so he was coming here, you drove your truck across the bridge, right? When you got to the other side, you were going to deliver your ammunition, and they said, we're pulling out, and go to Argos.
So a truckload of Germans passed us.
And a truckload of Germans passed you. I don't know if they had vests on because it wasn't an over-water landing, so they landed on both sides. There were the Australians are on both sides. We had up on the top, on the right up here, we actually had the remnants of a company covering this. You never sit right on an object, you cover it with fire.
The Corinth Canal Bridge crossed before it was destroyed. Reg heads for Argos and the possibility of a pickup by the ship Ulster Bridge. Reg gets to Argos and hides his truck in an olive grove, as instructed. Then goes to the beach, only to see the Ulster Bridge destroyed by two Messerschmitts, one of which crashes spectacularly into a cliff. We now move on to Kalamata by what would have been, in 1941, a one-lane road.
It's hard to imagine, you know.
Yeah.
We think of soldiers, and we think of soldiers that are, you know, like Crete, you know, experienced, age, all those things. 18-year-old.
He might have thought he was invincible.
Well, he would have. A lot of the real young ones think they're invincible. He most probably wasn't worried. He's mostly saying, oh yeah.
I think nowadays you think I wouldn't trust an 18-year-old to do something like that.
Kalamata, the end of Reg's flight and the site of his capture.
That drawers tied up too, and that had a lot of the men lined up on that breakwater. That's right. And then the Germans came across from the right, and there was the battle on the breakwater. You remember that? The fighting, the machine gunning, the fighting.
Oh, you put that on.
Yep, yep. And that's where the New Zealand fellow won the Victoria Cross. Yes, he took out two of the German 88s.
Who was it?
Yep.
Hinton.
Yes, yes. He didn't find out until he was in a prisoner of war camp. Peter knew all the records about it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah.
It's amazing.
And some of the boats, the small landing craft that were coming in to pick up the people and then putting them on the boats, came in here, round through there.
For you, the war is over.
Yeah, yeah. So the German soldiers said, "For you, the war's over."
So much. They make you laugh though. Some of the fellas came marching to surrender to the Germans with their rifles.
Still had their rifles. Yeah.
The bloody German got hold of them, threw them away. Do some funny things, don't we?
Okay. Now, how many days were you here before you had to start marching up to Salonika?
I wouldn't know, would never.
Wouldn't know?
Fair while, no.
Fair while.
Fair while, yeah.
Yeah, you were here for a while.
Fair while. And then we had to march over the mountains, didn't we?
Yes, yes, and you marched back to Corinth.
Yeah, Crete, was it?
Yeah, and across the bridge.
And you marched back there. Then 4 of the guards died.
4 of the guards died on the march back.
They were the only old fellows. They couldn't stand up.
Yeah. So the guards were old fellas, were they? Yeah. Well, you're a pretty old fella then too. You're 18 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing was, the trouble was in a few days before, the other people came around about, I sold my boots, my good boots, like a stupid how to do. All I had was a Yugoslav gave me an old pair. They were no good, you know. And we still walked all the way, and then we got over to the railway station. And we started on after that.
And you're on the train then?
No, on the plane.
On the train.
On a cattle truck.
Cattle truck, yeah. Well, I suppose it wasn't really a train, was it? No.
So that's where we made our way over.
Yeah. I'll just get a shot of.
Listen, I'll tell you what the.
Yep.
I'll tell you what the Hun said.
Yep.
He was taking our names and addresses, writing it down, and he come to one of the boys. He said, "Schneider, you can't say Schneider. You're not Schneider. It's a German name."
He just wouldn't believe it.
Yes.
And he put the Australian always got an arm in line. He said, I might have a name like Schneider, he said, but I'm not a bee like you.
We now visit Olympia, site of the original Olympic Games.
Sports center at the same time. This is where people would come to participate in the Olympic Games every 4 years in ancient times. Today we change city every 4 years, it's in a different place. In ancient times it was always here in Olympia, starting in 776 before Christ, and every 4 years it was repeated until 394. That was the last time the Olympic Games were held. Then the Christians said these were pagan and they stopped them. So it's like more than 1,200 years the games were repeated again and again. When the games were starting, it was compulsory to stop all kinds of conflict and wars. So there were messengers that would run through the whole country. They would be sent to all the cities to announce the beginning of the games 3 months before the games started. The games usually were in July, August. It depended on the moon and the sun, so it was not always on the same day. But this was closed.
Right, yes.
The columns that you see here were fallen. They have been restored. They are the original. That was 20 to 24 times run back and forth, and that was like a marathon. They did not have a marathon. They never ran outside the stadium. So these were all the games. Have the pediment, just like in the Parthenon. Here on one side of that you had the race course of Pelops, the one who gave his name to Peloponnese. We will see that. This sculpture is in the museum, we will see it now. And on the back side was the battle between the centaurs and the humans.
The museum at Olympia. We now go up the route followed by German outflanking forces and voyage to Delphi via the Patras route. The view from our accommodation at Delphi.
the Black Sea, the coast of Turkey today, Cyprus, all Eastern Mediterranean. It was filled with Greek colonies. The oracle was the center that organized all this expansion. So you would have come here, and they would tell you when, where, and in what way you should do this. There we go.
It's a bit chilly, wasn't it?
No.
This tastes quite nice.
That's not the gallon I needed.
Both ways, and then they will be eaten by the people, which was like a communion, because everybody could eat from the meat that was dedicated to the god. So this is a symbol of sacrifice. It's an ionic column, one of the oldest ionic columns, and one of the biggest. It's one of Naxos. Naxos is close to Crete. So most of this knowledge exactly came from Egypt, because the Greeks never had a sculpture of big size. So all this technique is inherited, but then there is also a big difference. The Roman copies in stone, in marble mostly. This is one of the few that were preserved. Everything is original, even the eyes on him are made of glass paste that resembles the eyes it is in reality. The statue was made in the technique of the lost wax, which means that inside is hollow, it's not solid.
We now take the road to Larissa via the Bralos Pass, delaying defence position.
There that goes up, and that's the road they were using in 1941. We're going from the south, which is Athens north towards Larissa. Now in your readings you would find that once we get up round that bend where it basically joins the new road, you can see down into the valley to Lamia. And in some of your writings you will hear that when they were defending up there, they could see all the trucks, lights coming, and the Germans came fairly close, and our artillery actually hit a few trucks and killed the Germans, and they turned around and went back.
We passed the monument at Thermopylae. where the Spartans defeated the Persians in ancient times, and where the New Zealand Division held the Germans in 1941. We then moved on to Domkos, where another major delaying defence was fought.
Right, Germans were advancing this way, and the force was the blocking force again, and it was right westward. Anyway, the force was a blocking force again. It was called Lee's force, and it had a battalion plus one company of another battalion on the western side of the road. And there's the main road as it winds up there is pretty much the road of the day. And it also had a battalion and a company of one of the other battalions on the eastern side. We believe that the battalion plus company was located on these two forward features on this side. That means they could cover all approaches to it, and I would say they might have even had a company sitting on the other side. Don't forget, the machine guns firing from company to company got ranges, 1,500 metres from close protection. The other battalion and company was on the other side of the road. They would have had some up the top here, where past the monastery, or where the monastery is. And they would have had a company forward, and the company forward then can fall back. So on the right hand side, which is the east, they had a company of the 2nd 5th Battalion, and they had the 2nd 6th Battalion, the whole battalion. That was located on the eastern side of the road on the other side. I'd say the battalion headquarters of the 2nd 6th would have been somewhere up in the dead ground up on the top.
We now visit Meteora, with its monasteries perched atop huge natural boulders.
But all the monasteries more or less have the same arrangement. So around were the cells, you have the rock, around were all the buildings, and in the middle was a yard. So you have the cells, you have the refectory where they all gathered to have a meal together. You had something like a hospital where the older monks that would not participate anymore in everyday activities could spend their days, and they could also take care of them. And from here you can see another space there where they kept the people that had died. When they died, they buried them, and after some years they unburied the bones, and the heads were kept in there in the ossuarium. Most of these rooms today are not used because there are too few monks. So these rooms have become like museums. You will see several of these around here. The kitchen, as it used to be. The cellar, as it used to be. They're not used anymore, but they show you what it used to be like with the older tools and
Today I'm here at the monasteries at Meteora. The scenery is somewhat amazing.
North of Kalambaka, we're in the area of the Savage Flank Protection Force. This is the original bridge they guarded.
Okay, so you most probably had a company on the other side. There'd be a company here close and a company in depth. There would have been some listening posts out forward. Your FOs, which are your artillery fellows that call the fire down, they would be with your forward battalions. Your div sigs would have been back behind the hill about 1 kilometre. This water here coming out of here is running under the bridge. So, yes, all.
Ptolemais is the site of a major tank battle. Lignite mine now, can't really see the ground. In the countryside near Zion Neron, you will find this memorial to the sacrifice of the Australian and New Zealand troops.
The prayer of remembrance. Past struggles have shaped us, O Lord. We remember their impact. The heroism of ordinary men and women challenges us, O Lord. We honour their memory. The sacrifice of military personnel and civilians humbles us, O Lord. Greater love has no one than this, that one lays down one's life for another. We come before you, O Lord, remembering those who gave up their freedom, their livelihood, even their life, for their country and liberty. As we remember them, we thank you for their sacrifice.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old.
Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
On now to the Vevi position via a lunch stop in Florina. The position at Vevi commands the approaches from the Monastir Gap.
Control the railway
Right? Yes.
and the roads.
Right? Yes.
Όταν ήρθαν εδώ πέρα δεν μπορούσαν να προχωρήσουν.
When they came here, they could not go.
We viewed the position following that extra support from the locals.
Florina.
The Florina
and Greece,
Museum
Florina.
and more Greek culture.
The Cretaceous period is the period when we have the dinosaurs. It's like, let's say, roughly 100 millions of years before now. All Greece was sea. All Greece was covered by the sea. And this is why we have no dinosaurs in Greece. They only find sea.
we visit the headquarters of the Lynx Group, once a resistance organisation, now a cultural group.
And this is the whole area of the province, let's say, of Florida was called Lynkistis in ancient times.
Οι ανασκαφές είναι στην κορυφαία πάνω αυτό που είναι οι ανασκαφές της Αγίας Φλόρινας.
I told you, ancient Florida is up there on the hill, on Agios Panteleimon.
We head to Niki on the Fyron border, where the commander has organised us a special briefing.
Και είναι και το ομώνυμο χωριό εδώ πέρα της Νίκης.
The village is also called Niki.
Από πού πήρε και το όνομα και ονομασία της Νίκης, ξέρουμε. Εδώ πέρα έγινε μία μάχη μεταξύ του Φιλίππου και των Ηλυρίων και λόγω της νίκης που έγινε εδώ πέρα ονομάστηκε έτσι το χωριό.
So the village was named after a victory. Niki in Greek means victory, of Philip II, the father of Alexander the Great, against a tribe of the Illyrian people who lived in Albania and in this part of Yugoslavia.
Βρισκόμαστε τώρα στο μέσο υψηπέδου της Πελαγωνίας εδώ πέρα και είμαστε ανάμεσα στη Φλόρινα και 17 χιλιόμετρα από τη Φλόρινα, είμαστε ακριβώς στο μέσο και 17 χιλιόμετρα από το μοναστήρι ή αλλιώς τα Σέρβικα Βίτολα.
So we are right in the middle of the valley, Pelagonian Valley is
The
called.
general commanding this northern border region of Greece had a soldier dress up in traditional dress, stand guard for us. This is the Monastir Gap, through which the armies of Alexander and Germany poured. We then got to see a local winery, very modern, very high-tech, but the wine has a fair way to go before it's as good as Australian. Luncheon in a local restaurant was excellent.
This is the sour water, the mineral water of this area.
This monument to Greek soldiers killed in World War II is just behind Vevi.
Word was come, got back from brigade headquarters, coming back. That stage, the signal would have gone back from Mackay Force through the 6 div signals back to the headquarters to say that we're pulling back now.
On the heights that dominate the Monastir Gap, we found this emplacement, an M48 tank turret dug in during the Greek Civil War. Our next stop is Kazani, from where we visit the village of Anokomi and experience the incredible hospitality of the people.
He was very poor. He was from a very poor family. It was very difficult years, and he had to leave Greece. He went to United States, like many Greeks did at the time. At first alone, he had to go through many adventures and difficult time until he found his way in the United States. He had to go into many different kinds of jobs until he started to make some money. He brought his wife to the United States. He never had children, so there came a point when he was he had a good economic situation, that he came back and everything that he had, he gave it to his village and his people.
The church at Anokomi is magnificent. The grand church behind us, we head down toward the school where we will be welcomed and entertained.
Είναι τιμή και χαρά για εμάς που παρευρίσκεστε σήμερα εδώ.
It's our honor that you are today here.
Thank you very much for having us today, and we feel honoured to be in your village, and we feel honoured to be in your village.
Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ που μας υποδεχτήκατε εδώ σήμερα. Περιμέναμε με...
Local youngsters had dressed up specially for us and gave a great dancing performance. Having been entertained, we were now fed.
Could have been worse. It's okay.
In the evening, we visit the Kazani Historical Museum. The museum has artifacts and exhibits that cover the entire history of the region. That night we were fated to dinner and introduced to Greek dancing. On to Larissa, where we first have to cross the new lake formed by the damming of the Aliakman River. We crossed by a new bridge, but our force had to walk 50 kilometres before crossing on an old temporary bridge before climbing up the Serbia Pass, where we will stand on their position. We now travel to the Tempe Gorge position, east of Larissa.
Behind that is where we came. The Tempe Gorge actually runs through there, and when we walk back a bit, about another 50 metres, you'll be able to see to the left of that second of the two hills, you'll see the big, you just see a cut in the hill, and it just looks like it was just clefted through. The armoured division was coming from that end, and when we go around the back I'll show you actually where the motorised came from. Now this is a good spot to look at it because they actually came across here. Now if you look out to your front, you will find that the second battalion was where the village is, up including that hill. That's the second battalion, going down onto a bit of the flat. The third battalion actually was right around further where the big pin hill is behind the village.
We now drive through the Tempe Gorge, following the route of the advancing Germans. We now head toward the coast. We pass a Frankish castle. 1941 was not the first German visit. We leave the coast and head south again toward Larissa via the Olympic passes. During the campaign, near this ancient bridge at Alençon, one of our field hospitals was set up. We now move down toward Athens and our overnight ferry crossing to Crete. Dinner was in the Arsensis before we boarded the ferry. At 5 a.m. arrival in Crete, breakfast, and then we head up toward the German cemetery at Malani. German losses on Crete were horrendous. Most of the dead are buried here at Malani. A view of the airfield from the high ground on Hill 107. The Battle of Crete was a German victory. The losses of the airborne forces were such that they were never ever used as airborne forces again.
They were covering the other side of the. We went around the hill a bit so they could cover the other side of the flat area on there. You also had the 23rd Battalion, which was to the right, about a kilometre down the other way. They spread out quite a bit. Don't forget, your weapons are what you don't have to be next to each other to defend something as long.
The museum shop at the cemetery is, of course, well patronised. We now visit memorials to the partisans who fought against German occupation. We drive through the Cretan countryside before we arrive at the Souda Bay Cemetery.
rest on us all in this land of Australia as we work for peace among the nations. Bless every effort being made to bring peace and understanding to the world. Give us wisdom, courage and strength that we may help to forget and maintain a true and lasting peace, and that the people and nations of the world may come to dwell together without enmity and without fear. Help us to be role models for that peace in everything that we do. Amen.
Amen. Say the O together. They shall groan at old.
As we that are left our goal, age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
We climb the spine of Crete as we follow the evacuation routes to the south. The evacuation beach at Sfakia. A Venetian castle overlooking the Libyan Sea. We visit the Provelli monastery, where the monks gave great solace to Greek partisans and Australian and New Zealand soldiers. We start our last full day in Crete with a tour of Rethmo. We took a moment to watch the children of Rethmo practice for their National Day celebration.
hours to give the fit ones a chance to get over. He would have had problems at the other end getting on a ship, but if he could have taken a formed battalion of 700 men across the hill, they would have been given priority on the way over. Yeah, we found this is where your father fought. Because would you like to tell us what those deductions, how we got to this?
Well, basically, he never spoke about the New Zealanders, so he was fighting somewhere where there were not New Zealanders. He also was incredibly angry that they had to surrender when they had already won the battle. And we only ever found out anecdotes from him, but there were just little things like that that make us conclude that he was here.
He was a 6th Div signaller, and Ian Campbell in the 2nd 1st Battalion was in charge of this position at Retamo, guarding the airfield. He didn't have any New Zealanders with him, and also they did win the battle. They fought from the 20th right through to the 27th, 28th. They won the battle. He wasn't aware that the evacuation was taking place because the batteries run out with the SIGs, and there was no batteries here. He had no communications, and he surrendered here. So they had won the battle, but they still had to surrender because they'd run out of ammunition, and it was futile just losing other lives.
Also, he'd never spoken of fleeing over hills and evacuating over hills. The only thing he ever spoke about like that was the villagers were always very generous with food. They always gave the soldiers food when they saw them, but there was never anything of an escape. It was just anger that they had to surrender when they'd won.
This is the only area on Crete where everything adds up. What happened and what didn't to Reg Saunders.
Thanks, Bill. Have you had some more?
Well, I've had it every day on the trip.
So you've got to get a copy.
I've got to get a copy.
Right.
It's your mission.
We've had, we've done quite well actually, being able to find out where most. This is Margot and Terry George walking down here. Margot's father was attached as a signaller from 6th Div headquarters to Ian Campbell's headquarters, because Ian Campbell commanded the 2nd 1st Battalion and therefore commanded this whole Retano position. After many guesses and adding everything up, this is the spot that her father was captured. He was one of the ones that was in the battle, that actually won the battle, but was captured. He was really upset about that they'd won, but they'd been captured.
Margot and Terry have just walked down the street named after Lieutenant Colonel Campbell. Heraklion is our final stop on the tour. Here we study in detail the German landing and the spirited Australian defence.
Of this position. The Junkers actually came over and came through there and went along the beach at 80 metres high. Our anti-aircraft was down the beach and Royal Bloke was here for sure. Right, this is he was here, and what happened was at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. 5 p.m. 240 Junkers transport came into view. The aerial convoy stretched for 8 kilometres, flying parallel with the coast and about 30 metres above the water. One Australian soldier was spellbound by the futuristic nature and magnificence of the scene. As they turned inland for the drop zones, they come across the coast, they turned inland, their drop zones were going to be through here. As they turned inland, The transport rose 80 metres, dropped their paratroopers, then turned out to sea. As they came in over Heraklion, the slow-moving planes became targets for the 12. We had 12 Bofors guns.